Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We shall just wait a few moments until a few people have joined, and then we shall get started today on Surah Quraysh, inshallah. So far we've covered Surah Fatiha, that was day one. Day two we covered Surah Fil, and apologies if we have covered quite a few rules, but it just shows the level of tajweed that is required in these surahs, especially in Surah Fatiha and especially in Surah Fil. So let's get started then. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بإذن الله, we shall carry on today our tajweed sessions of Surah Quraysh. Now, before I get started on today's tajweed of Surah Quraysh, I just wanted to just highlight something that always gets mentioned when someone discusses tajweed. And you might hear someone say that if you don't recite the Quran correctly with the correct tajweed, then you will be sinful, then you're making a mistake and you're reading the Quran in the incorrect manner. So I just wanted to address this, and I wanted to highlight the types of mistakes that you can make in regards to tajweed. So in tajweed, there's the word lahn. The word lahn means mistake. Okay, so there's two types of mistakes. One is lahn ghali, lahnul ghani, or there's a lahnul khafi. So lahn ghali and lahn khafi. Lahn ghali is a major mistake, and lahn khafi is a minor mistake. Okay, so when we discuss lahn jali, okay, so I think I might have mentioned that it's not, I think I might have said lahn ghali, it's actually lahn jali. So when we discuss lahn jali, there's 5 types of major errors, okay, which I'm not going to go into too much, but it's things like adding another letter on, or putting the sukoon in the wrong place, or stretching a letter for more than it needs to, and what the reason why that's classed as a major mistake is because that can change the meaning of the Quran. Okay, so that's known as lahn jali. And the second one, lahn khafi, is when someone makes a minor mistake. So that is when someone's not reciting with ikhfa, or they're not praying the nun sukun in the nose, or they're not praying the nun sukun ghunna, something like that. Okay, so just wanted to address that. Okay, let's get started on Surah Quraysh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لإيلاف قريش لإيلاف قريش لإيلاف. Okay, this is an interesting word because we obviously the first letter is lam, kasra, zer, li, and then we have e and then la. Okay, now ya, there's 3 letters that we generally stretch. Okay, so there's alif, waw, and a ya. So if alif has a fatha before it, it'll make the a sound. If a waw has a dhamma before it, then it'll make the u sound. And if a ya has a kasra before it, then it'll make the e sound. So here we've got the e. Li-i-la-fi, li-i-la-fi. So to make sure we stretch the e, equivalent to 1 second, 1 alif. Li-i-la-la. The lam has a standing fatha on top of it, which means that we're going to stretch it for the equivalent of 1 alif, i.e. 1 second. Li-i-la-fi, li-i-la-fi. And then we'll end that with Quraysh. Now this is something that's really interesting. So we've got a qaf, dhamma, qu, qu, circular motion with the lips, qu, and then we've got a ra fatha ra, and then we've got a ya sukoon, rai, qurai. Now these sort of words, qurai, a word like this, Quraysh, we actually, I'm not going to, go too much into the rule of how long we need to, what the name of the rule and the definition, but I'm just going to quickly explain. When you come across a word like this, you have three options in terms of stretching. You can stretch it, and you can lengthen it for a period of 1 alif, i.e. 1 second, or you can stretch it for a period of 3 seconds, or you can actually stretch it for a period of 5 seconds. So you can say, so 1 second would be Quraysh, or you could say Quraysh, or you can say Quraysh. So generally, typically, you would, normally you do around 3 seconds, 3 alif. That's the kind of general rule of thumb. That's what you generally hear. So, لإيلاف قريش لإيلاف قريش. Okay, next part. إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف. إيلافهم. Alif has a standing kasra underneath it. Lam has a standing fatha on top of it. Also known as a lam, you can also call it the long fatha. So it's got that straight line. So those are letters of mud. So again, E, la, stretch. E, la, not too much. It's not E, and it's not la. It's E, la for a period of 1 alif. Fihim, again, fihim, smile, fihim, any letters with kasra or zir. Ila fihim, and then we have rihla, rih. We're using the tip of the tongue behind the front two teeth. Rih. Okay? Ha from the middle of the throat. Okay? Rihlatash. Tash. Ta is a slight sound. Okay? It's not tosh. It's not a full mouth. It's tash. Rihlatash. And then we have Shita'i. Okay, so the sheen has a shadda on top of it, which means that we are going to pray it 2 times. Rihlatashi. Okay, now the ta, when you look at it in the Quran, it's actually got a big mud on top of it. And the other day, I sort of mentioned a general rule saying that a small mud is 3 seconds and a big mud is 5 seconds. I'll just quickly mention a rule here. It's not something that you need to take on straight away, because again, it's understanding the definitions behind it. But if a letter of mud, i.e. an alif here, the shita, if a letter of mud is followed by a hamza, then you would stretch that mud for a period of 4 alifs, 4 seconds. Okay, so let's not worry about that too much. If you can't, remember that, then just stick to your 5. But just a general rule of thumb: if there is a hamza, the letter hamza after a letter of mud, then you will stretch that letter of mud for a period of 4 seconds. So shita'i. So from the beginning, إِلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ okay, not wa, صاد, full mouth, صَيْف, like we mentioned before, it's an optional stretch. You can either stretch it for 1 second, or 3 seconds, or 5 seconds, especially when it's a word like صَيْف. Okay, was-sayf. And if I've not mentioned before, the reason why it's optional, a 1 second, 3 second, or a 5 second is because if you look at the word was-sayf, on the ya there's a sukoon, there's a connector, there's a C. Okay, now if a letter that has a sukoon on top of it already is then followed by another letter that has a sukoon on top of it, that's when we have the option of stretching however much we want. Okay, so was-sayf. So technically in the Quran it says was-sayfi. Okay, but because we are applying the stopping rule like we mentioned yesterday, then on was-sayfi, the fa, the kasra will drop off and the sukoon will come on top to make it, and then we'll join it all together. Was-sayf. So from the beginning. إِيلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ. إِيلَافِهِمْ. Do it with me, nice and loud, do it with me, because you cannot, in my opinion, it's virtually impossible to learn Tajweed by just listening to it like it's a lecture. You have to read along. So when I am doing these sessions, when I'm doing these live sessions, try to read and pray along with me. إِيلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ. Okay. فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. Look at it from the beginning. فَلْيَعْبُدُوا. Fal. Commit to the lam sukoon. It is not fala. Fala. Don't be lazy. We're reading in an active voice. Fal. Ya. Ayn from the throat, but don't try to overdo the ayn to the point where you're doing qalqala, where you're trying to, where you're trying to make a bouncing sound, echo sound. So it's not it's ya. Okay. Bu, ba'dhamma bu, circular lips, bu. Fal bu, do. Now here after the dal there is a wow, and as we mentioned before, if before a wow sukoon there is a dhamma, then we will stretch it. So here فَلْيَعْبُدُوا, we will only be stretching it for the duration of 1 alif, meaning 1 second, meaning the time it takes you to open 1 finger or to close 1 finger. فَلْيَعْبُدُوا. So don't overstretch it. Don't say فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ, incorrect. Or don't say فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ. No, make sure you're stretching it for the right period of time. فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ. Ra fatha ra, full mouth, followed by a ba. When we mentioned yesterday that the way that you recite a ba is when the inner lips touch and the moist part of the lips touch together. Rabb, فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا. It's not he, okay, it's هَذَا. The tongue behind the front 2 teeth, the. Like we mentioned the other day, in English you say the man, them, those, that, exact same. هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. هَذَا not ذَلَ, ذَل. هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. Like I mentioned before, imagine you're taking a slight pause. هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. And as we mentioned, and it's the same as it is in the previous 2 ayats, when if you look at the word bayt, there's a ya sukoon, okay? In the Quran it actually says bayti, but because we are applying a stopping rule, the kasra will drop off from the ta and we will put a sukoon on top of it to make it bayt, okay? And the reason, like we mentioned before, here we have an option in terms of how long we want to stretch. We can either stretch it for the duration of 1 second, or 3 seconds, or 5 seconds, okay? In this particular scenario. So just to mention that again, if in this scenario, bayt, the ya sukoon, if the ya sukoon is followed by a letter with another sukoon, then we have the option of stretching for either 1, 3, or 5 seconds. But general rule of thumb, we generally do 3 seconds. هذا البيت هذا البيت. So all together from the beginning. فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت. And the ta ever so slightly. Make sure it's not bayt. It's not tss, tss. We're not making the tss sound. And it's not bayt. It's not ta and it's not tss. The ta, we have to make it, it's a slight noise. فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت. Bayt. Slight ta sound, okay? Bayt. الذي أطعمهم من جوع. الذي أطعمهم من جوع. الذي. Allah. It's not Allah, okay? It's Allah. Connect to the lam shadda, 2 lams. Imagine there's alif fatha a, lam sukoon al, followed by another lam fatha la. Allah. It would be helpful if I had a whiteboard here, but maybe in the future, inshallah. Allah. So this mud, it's a small mud. Simple. We'll stretch that small mud for 3 seconds, okay? الذي. I won't go into the specifics of why we stretch it for 3 seconds, because again, this is another rule here. But maybe we'll do that at a different session where I'm just doing a session specifically focusing on muds. الذي أطعمهم And I'm going to ask you this question because you should know it by now. Ta is what letter? It is a letter of qalqala. Okay? Qalqala. When we bounce the letter, we bounce it. What are the letters of qalqala? Qutubu jaddin. That's the word letters combined to make that word. Qaf, ta, ba, jim, dal. Qaf, ta, ba, jim, dal. 5 letters of qalqala. Qaf sukun, ta sukun, ba sukun, jim sukun, and dal sukun. If on any of these letters, if these letters come up and it has a sukun on top of it, then we will apply the qalqala rule. Some people say echo or rebound, or like I mentioned yesterday, imagine you're holding a basketball and you're bouncing it off the ground. The time that it takes for the bounce, so we're not going to pray up, or we're not going to pray ta. We're going to pray ta. Amahum, ain, middle of the throat, ma, simple ma, hum, at'amahum. Now here, we are going to stretch the mim sukoon. أطعمهم من جوع. So there's actually quite a few things going on here. So let me just break it down. So we've got أطعمهم. After the mim sukoon on أطعمهم, we have another mim, okay, which has a shadda. And as I explained yesterday, any letter in the Quran that has any meme or any noon that has a shadda on top of it, you will always stretch it regardless, okay? So here it will say أطعمهم منهم. We'll stretch it, okay? And as we mentioned yesterday, the first thing to remember is ghunna. Ghunna is when you make the slight stretch, when we make the slight noise, we make a nasal sound on a meme shadda or noon shadda. But in this case, the meme shadda is on the next word. Okay, so it's in the beginning of a word. So we're going to apply a rule called idgham with ghunna. Idgham with ghunna. Idgham means to join. Okay, ghunna is whether we're going to pray in the nose or without the noise. Without the noise in the nose or with the noise in the nose. Okay, so here we will be doing it in the nose. أطعمهم. Now the next part is we're going to pray the noon sukoon in the nose. أطعمهم من ju'. Min. Noise in the nose. Okay? Slight nasal sound. What's the rule for ikhfa? Nun sukun, as we mentioned yesterday. Ikhfa nun sukun, ikhfa of tanween, meaning 2 fathas, 2 dhammas, 2 kasras. If any of the throat letters appear after a nun sukun or a tanween, then you will apply the ikhfa rule. You will make a slight a light nasal sound. Okay? So it's just remember the throat letters. The other letters that may come after are the yarmalun letters. So ya, ra, lam, mim, waw, noon. But you wouldn't make that mistake because you'd know to join it on. That's another rule of idgham, which we won't go into. But you can see how idgham is taking over this session. Maybe I need to do another exclusive idgham session. But back to where we were. أطعمهم in the nose. من جوع. Ju'. As we mentioned before in the 2 ayats above, we have an option here on how long we want to stretch. Ju'. 1 second, 3 seconds, 5 seconds. Because the last letter has a sukoon on it, and the letter before also has a letter of mud on it, which means that we have the option. The letter before is the letter of mud, and here the letter of mud is a waw sukoon. Okay, and because the waw sukoon is, we know that it's a letter of mud because before that we have a dhamma on it. Min ju'. So I'm opting for the 3 second rule. Min ju'. Ju'. We're making the sound from the nose. We're not saying min ju'. We're not doing qalqala on it. Okay, we're saying min ju'. That's it. Kind of imagine like a little jump. Ju'. It's not ju'. Ju'. Okay, that's too exaggerated. الذي أطعمهم من جوع. Okay. Now, in the Quran, you might see in between here, there's a lam alif. So that just, in simple terms, it just means that you have the option of either joining it, min ju'in wa amana, or you can stop, min ju' wa amana. So depending on what you want to do. If you want to stretch it, if you want to join it, just make sure, wow, you stretch that, okay, because it's a letter of idgham with ghunna, 4 letters of idgham, ya, waw, mim, noon, yuminu. If these letters of idgham appear in the beginning of a word, then you will stretch it. Let's not worry about that too much. Wa amanahum min khawf. Wa alif, it's a stretched letter. Wa duration of 1 second. Manahum, mana, wa amana. And then we have hum. Same rule as before when we prayed at'amahum. Here, amanahum. The mim sukoon in amanahum joins on to the mim shadda in the next word. And we are applying the ghunna rule. We are applying the idgham of the, it's also the idgham rule, and we are applying the ghunna rule. Okay, so we are stretching it, we're praying in the nose. Okay, like we mentioned yesterday, when you're trying to pray the ghunna, do not make the noise in the lips, in the mouth, make it in the nose. Wa amanahum min khawf. Min khawf. Notice how I am not saying min. I'm not stretching it. I'm not praying it in the nose. I'm not making a light nasal sound. I'm saying min khawf. Min khawf. And the reason, you should know this by now, the reason why we are not making the light nasal sound is because after the noon sukoon, there is a throat letter. Okay? Now, what are the throat letters? I'll give you a few seconds to try and think of it. I'll give you 3 seconds. What are the throat letters? We've been over it already. 3 seconds are up. So kha. Kha is a throat letter. Okay? Well, how many letters are there in the throat letters? 6 letters. Hamza ha, bottom of the throat. Ain ha, middle of the throat. Ghain kha, top of the throat. And this is the top of the throat. Min khawf. So here we are, like I mentioned yesterday, there's an opposite for everything. So whenever if we don't do ikhfa, then we are doing izhar. Izhar is when we are not praying it in the nose, is when we are not stretching it, we're not applying any rule. Ikhfa, we make a light nasal sound, and izhar, we're not making a light nasal sound. So ikhfa, when we make the light nasal sound, izhar, when we don't make a light nasal sound. So yes to ikhfa and no to izhar. Okay, so here, min khawf, min khawf. And again, this how many times has this same rule come up? Quraysh, was-sayf, bayt, ju'. Again, khawf, same rule as before. Okay, waw sukoon. There's a letter of mud, waw sukoon, followed by another letter which we are going to apply stopping rule on. And that letter, the 2 kasras on the fin, and in the Quran it says khawfin, 2 kasras will drop off. We'll put a sukoon on top to make it khawf. When there's two sukoons occurring at the same time, we have the option of stretching it for either 1 second, 3 seconds, or 5 seconds. In this case, I'm just going to stick to the 3 seconds because that's generally what happens. وَآمَنَهُمْ مِنْ خَوْفٍ. Remember what I was saying yesterday, when we were doing ghunna of the mim shadda, imagine the vibration happening more in the nose, the primary sound coming through the nose, and then you can't take the noise completely away from the mouth, but majority should be in the nose. وَآمَنَهُمْ مِنْ خَوْفٍ. So that is the full Surah Quraysh. What we'll do is we'll just go over it from the beginning one more time, nice and slow, without stopping. And I want you all to pray along with me, so nice and slow. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لإيلاف قريش إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. We'll do the last ayah again. We'll do it together. We'll just combine the last 2 parts together. I'm going to take a deep breath now. I'm going to make sure I don't run out of breath. الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. صدق الله العظيم. Jazakallah for listening. So that is the completion of Surah Quraysh, and I think we put out a post yesterday because alhamdulillah we received a lot of positive feedback in terms of participants really feel as though their recitation is improving quite a lot. But I think there were a few people that were feeling quite overwhelmed with the amount of rules that there are, and how in terms of there's a lot of things to remember. So you've got the rules, you've got the makhraj, you've got the origin of from the mouth, how you pronounce it. So by putting everything together slowly but surely, inshallah, this is something that will take time. And like I mentioned before, this is not you will, if you've never really given an interest in praying the Quran with Tajweed before, in terms of beautifying the Quran, it's very difficult to listen to these 10 sessions and think, okay, That's it. That's all I need to do. It's not, this is, think of it as though this is where your journey begins. This is where you're going to improve your recitation of the Quran, inshallah. So, like I said to everyone, just be patient. And we will be organizing more courses in the future, specific courses on Tajweed, and we'll be putting out posts as well, explaining and highlighting all the different types of rules that there are. So do we have any comments, just quickly check? Nope, that's fine. Okay, so inshallah I will see you all tomorrow. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.